To use the expense module, you first need to create the various expense categories and approval limits on the Unolo system. To do so, log into your admin panel, go into Settings, Company Level, select Expense Settings from the top bar. The first thing is the expense approval methods. This means that when a field executive submits an expense, who will it go to for approval? The first option is admin hierarchy based approval, which means that based on the admin hierarchy that you have set up in the organization chart, the various managers that you have set up for that field executive, the approval will flow from one to the other. Within this option, you can restrict the number of admins. So, for example, you can say that within the current hierarchy, the approval should go up to 2 levels of managers, and post that the final approval should be obtained, or you could unrestrict the limit here as well. The other option is by fixing up custom authorization levels. So, you can actually choose from amongst the various managers who will be responsible. This would be effective in a case where first the direct manager of the field executive is to approve the expense, and after that maybe a CEO or an HR approval is required. So, for example, here we fix the level 1 approver as AK and the level 2 approver as PK. Once PK has approved the expense, they will be completely approved in the system and will not float for any other manager's approval. The next option is that of custom fields in the expense claim. Herein you can create a custom field, say description. So, the employee has the option of entering details into this custom field. The next one is creating specific expense categories. For your convenience, we have already created some default categories like accommodation, meals, office supplies. To add in a new one, for example, travel expense, you can enter the details here and click on the plus icon. Once these expense categories and the approval hierarchy has been set, we can actually restrict the expense limits. To do so, select from here. Now, you can choose to have expense limits for all the categories of expense, and you can choose to have them differently for different designations. So, for example, we have a manager and associate designation. We can say for a manager the expense limit is 500, for the associate it is 200. You can also choose whether these expense limits will be applicable weekly, daily or monthly. Similarly, you could do this for a team as well. So, you could choose that maybe the North India team has an approval of 500 rupees daily, whereas the South India team has a 750 rupees daily expense limit, or you could just set up one single expense limit for the entire company, a default limit that will be applicable across all expense categories in the company as a whole. The other option we also give you is a specific expense limit for a specific expense category. So, for instance, if I choose that for meals an employee will not be allowed to get a claim of 100 rupees or more, you simply select meals from here and click here to add the expense limit. Once again, you can set these on the basis of designations, teams or a default limit for the company as a whole. So, we can say put in a 100 rupee daily limit on this category. Similarly, you can create other limits for other categories as well. For example, for a telephone bill, I can set up to create a limit as well. The last option is for conveyance. As you are aware, Unolo calculates the distance that your employees are traveling through our system as well. Additionally, when the employee will put in a claim, we will calculate what is the total claim due to him. You can specify the default rate for car travel or for bike rate onto the system. You could once again customize it basis the designation of the various employees. So, maybe a manager gets 15 rupees and an associate gets 10 rupee per kilometer on the car, or you could also specify the same basis on the team depending on how you would like to reimburse. Once you have set up all these categories, your employees can actually put in an expense claim that you could then approve or disapprove via your panel.